Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Matt Warner. I am the host of the Life Performance Podcast. This is episode 3. We've got an amazing guest with us today. She is the founder and MD of Make Events. These guys have done events for some of the corporate juggernauts, the likes of Puma, Kellogg's, Virgin, the Hut Group, to name but a few. So I'm more than proud to introduce you to Holly Moore. Holly, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Matt. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I've got a tan, which is kind of unheard of in Manchester. But really, really looking forward to what we've got coming up. So I'm going to get stuck straight in. You this will have some context later on when we kind of talk a little bit more, but you had your first drink for 6 months last night.
Yes, I did.
How are you feeling?
Well, I actually did when I say first drink, I had 3 drinks last night, but this is on like a full night out. Mm-hmm. So I feel fine. I've no hangover. I was really dehydrated when I woke up, which I'm not used to because I've not had that for 6 months, but I've just probably nailed about 2 litres of water already today.
Fantastic. So for people out there listening, always like to give them a little bit of context, a little bit of a backstory. Obviously, you have your current business, Make Events. They're doing amazing stuff, not just in the Northwest, but across the UK and beyond. As I said, work with some phenomenal companies who everyone will be familiar with. But obviously, there was a journey up to that point. So take us back as far as you want to go, and let's kind of do a little "this is your life" kind of thing.
Yeah. So started my career really early career. Didn't want to go to university. Just really wanted to work and earn money. And I went on the trainee manager scheme with which was Burton Group at the time, is now Arcadia.
And for those people who are not familiar with Arcadia, they have the likes of Topshop. That's probably the main one.
Yeah. So did this whole it was a after A-level retail management scheme. Got interviewed in London. Thought I was going to be shipped somewhere across the UK, really cool. And my first placement was Dorothy Perkins in Hanley, the Pottery Centre. So that was very glamorous. And did retail for a year, but I actually realised what I really loved was customer experience and looking after all the customers. And so started to get interested in hospitality and began my career in hospitality, moved over to a venue.
How old were you when you were doing that?
Would have been 20 probably.
Okay.
So did the retail management scheme for 2 years, moved over to the venue and stayed there 9 years actually, and did everything from personnel, reception, and eventually into events. But when I started in events, it was before events were really cool. So it was just Posh and Bex had just got married and events were becoming bigger and bigger. And I just love creating experiences for people. And so that's what, for me, it was all about. So stayed there 9 years and then went over there was actually a customer at this particular venue who worked for AstraZeneca, which is a big pharmaceutical giant. And before Google and everyone was doing events for, recruitment, retention, AstraZeneca had cottoned on to employee engagement. And so they had a business within their business, which just managed employee engagement. So I headed up all the events. So that was any kind of events to recruit, retain, motivate people, and that was where kind of that side and that interest came from.
Sure. So it's been a very patient journey.
Yes.
I think a lot of people will see Make Events and they'll see how well it's doing, and a lot of people when you talk about it tend to go, oh well, it's all right for you. You're very lucky you've got your own business.
Yeah.
And they don't generally see the backstory.
Yeah.
So it's been a good while in the making.
Yeah.
So for you during that journey, how was you in terms of your lifestyle? Let's drill into that a little bit. Let's take the 9 years. You were in the one job for 9 years.
Yeah.
What was Holly's lifestyle like?
These are good questions. Oh my God, right. So this is late 90s. So I was brought up on the ladette binge culture. Uh-huh. So literally from being 18, it was party every weekend. You just used to get hammered every Friday, Saturday night. So I kind of did my university years at the Titherington Club where I was at the time.
Smirnoff Ice and
Hooch,
yeah.
Moscow Mule.
Amazing.
Things like that. And Yeah, so like literally partied hard, worked hard, didn't even though the venue that I was in was part of a like luxury gym, I never even went in the gym. I was rubbish at sport at school because I hated competitive sport. So just had no interest. So I was just I was a party girl. Ate what I wanted, never put on any weight, So that was the 9 years. Work hard, play hard, I would say, for those 9 years.
So it's fair to say that health wasn't necessarily a priority.
Not at all.
For you?
No, not at all.
So when did that start to change? Were there any kind of outstanding moments or catalysts for you to kind of say, look, I need to, begin making some changes?
Yeah. So I think when I hit, let me think, maybe when I hit 30, I realised I couldn't have McDonald's every weekend and eat chocolate all the time and stay the same weight. So that was a little bit upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suffered with some mental health issues from like late 20s to early 30s. And at that time, so I think I was 30 when I started going to the gym. The doctor obviously said to me, do you exercise? No, you probably want to start trying to do that. And I just did it really, really softly, kind of really slow for the first couple of years. And if I went in the gym twice or 3 times, I wasn't really that into it. But then obviously, as you do more and more and you start to see changes, and then you start to think, oh, that endorphin hit that you get at the end of it. And now I look back to before I was 30 and I'm like, how did I actually function? Because I get so much energy and motivation for the gym. I actually don't know how I did it. Got to 30, drinking, eating what I wanted, and yeah, so.
You start building from there.
Mm-hmm.
So did that really tie in to wanting to make that kind of massive leap to self-employment, the kind of big leap to the event side of things? Was that something that kind of all tied in? Was it all kind of one then the other? It was like, I feel better now, I can make that choice?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes. Oh, no, 100%. So with my mental health, I got well in about 7 years ago, and complete of a strain of mental health that they said, you will never get rid of. And I've been well for 7 years on no medication.
Fantastic.
And so what happened was when I got well, it was like the blinkers had come off. So when you say it's been quite a long journey, it has, because, I didn't start my business till I was 35. And when I look back at my career, I always loved work, but I was always in second gear. And when I look back, I obviously had some level of anxiety from being little that I hadn't cottoned on to, if you know what I mean. So I did a lot of work before even setting up the business I'd sort of, before make events, put myself in situations where, so I'd go for jobs that were probably beneath my skill level, but I knew that I would be really good at them. So I then was giving myself a competitive edge without pushing myself out of my comfort zone, if that sort of makes sense.
And that's it's something that seems to be very, very common. And you touched on the anxiety. Again, it seems to be a symptom that is a lot more common, especially in the younger generation.
Yeah.
I think we do mention a lot about social media. It has a lot of great potential and a lot. It does a lot of good, but I think that kind of expectation to be world changers, that expectation to be a large business owner, and other kind of expectations imposed upon you, doesn't give you that kind of moral marker or that time to be able to go, okay, I know where I sit in terms of my career. I know where I sit in terms of my health, and you're just bombarded with one opinion then another. It's like, you need to be super motivated. And then it's like, doesn't matter if you don't wake up early. And then, it's like, where do I go? And that's going to cause nothing but anxiety.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about getting into the gym and training. And what did you find that you may not have had kind of a moment where it just clicked for you, but what did you find that kind of did for you?
So I think initially, it's for me, it's a lot of it's always been about friendship. So when I started going to the gym, I can't even remember what I started probably doing. Maybe, a bit of weights and maybe the cross trainer and 10 minutes on the bike and stuff like that, which I would never do now. And I think then I started to make a friendship group who I'm still friendly with now. Well, they're one of my best friends, and we started going to spin class together. So it was that whole getting up in the morning, seeing your mates, having a laugh. And this is what I love about it now. When I go to my gym now in the morning, I've got no makeup on. Nobody knows what I do. I'm just me messing around, chatting, being told off, for being naughty. And so you can just be you. So I think for me, like, friendship's been a massive part of it. So I think initially when you say, when did it kind of click into place? It was like, oh, so before I start a working day, I've had a workout, I've had a chat with my friends, and that was kind of then the start of the motivation for me. And then seeing changes. So I started to do spin and body pump. And that, I think body pump was like my introduction into weights. And that was, girls weren't really doing weights then as such. And I just started, and people started to say, oh, have you lost weight? Like, and that for me, because I'm aesthetically driven,
Sure.
Like for somebody to say that gave me the motivation. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep going with this sort of thing. So it's like a combination, I'd say, of, and then you're like proud of yourself, aren't you? If you've never done anything, if you've always been known as like the lazy one that, or Holly doesn't go to the gym. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when you start known for, oh, you go to the gym, it's like a bit of a...
It's that comfort thing, I think, going out there and exercising when you haven't.
Yeah.
We all have our body hang-ups, and
Yeah,
we there's a lot at the moment about body confidence, and
yeah.
I've spoken in previous podcasts about, people are saying you should be happy with how you look, you should be happy with where you're at, because there's always people more unfortunate than you. And from my personal opinion, I struggle with that because, and you may resonate with this, because growth is what life should be about. And there's different factors that fall below that. So there is the physical element, regardless of your motivation to get in better physical shape, whether it is aesthetic, whether it is vanity, that's cool. Or whether it is, I want to, look better in a suit, or I want to look better in my gym clothing. I think that's kind of where we're going now. I think looking good naked was kind of a thing 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
People want to look great in their kind of athleisure wear. They want to look great in their suit. But for me, it's part of that growth and development, that evolution as a person. So I find it very difficult, and I don't know if you've got any kind of insight on that body confidence thing, because you were driven aesthetically initially. Is there anything you would say to people about that particular subject?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite open to, like, when I was little, if you like, I've always been slim. So that's what I would get praised for. So from being a little girl, oh, Holly's slim, Holly's slim, Holly's slim. So it's kind of like growing up, when I was saying to you, like, at 30, I was suddenly like, oh, right, I can't eat this, or, like I used to. It was probably a bit of a driver to then make a few changes, because, not to like go too deep, but if you've grown up, been told you're something, and then suddenly think you're not going to be that, that's like part of your identity. So in a way, I suppose it's bad, because it's made me conscious of keeping like a certain weight. But at the same time, if I'd carried on the way I was in my 20s, 30s, drinking all the time, I used to like smoke socially, which like people wouldn't even believe now, eating what I want, like I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I definitely wouldn't have the business that I've got today, or be able to put the energy
100%.
into it.
It's all drivers and motivations for doing things. And I think we kind of fall into two categories when it comes to criticism, when it comes to people's opinions, and I share a very similar story with you. Growing up, I was very good at sport. I played football for professional academies. I played cricket at county national level. I was doing karate at national level, and I was the kid that everyone picked on because I was good at something. And rather than, for me, it kind of detracted me from that, it actually, unbeknown to me at the time, it actually enhanced my value for trying to add value to other people's lives. And I had some talent that I could give. And it's difficult when I see people taking those outside opinions. And again, we go back to social media. It's so easy. It's just, when we were at school, bullying or bad feeling or negative comments stopped at 3:00. Because we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have all that access. So we could go home and relax and talk about it and think logically about how we're going to work this through. Whereas now it's before you go to school, and then when you're at school, and then it's when you get home, through social media and these games like Fortnite and all of these things. So the kids don't have a respite. So the what's real and what's not is kind of getting blurred a little. So, it's saying, look, yes, people's opinions matter. It's pointless saying don't worry about what other people think, because it's there and it's there all the time. But it's taking it and going, okay, well, what are my strengths as a person? What are my development areas? And go, okay, well, I have something to give, and everyone has something to give. And just being really forthright with that and then developing things as you go. So like, you know, you mentioned about you kind of finding out who you were and being yourself. I know for me that didn't happen until very recently, where I can kind of just chill out and relax. I can be a bit goofy if I want to do that, and no one's going to go, oh, you know. And even if they do, I just don't care. And getting people to understand that that's a patience game. You know, in your teens, your 20s, you're kind of just finding out what everything's all about. You know, and obviously you've done that. So what was the kind of tipping point for you to then go, right, you were interested in events. I'm going to start my own business.
So when I was at my last company, I had sales targets, and I was doing plus 126% on my targets for that year. I wasn't on a particularly good wage, so in a way I didn't have like the golden handcuffs around me. So I'd recovered. Well, this is exactly what happened actually. So recovered from like the mental health issue, which I'd had one boss that was absolutely amazing with me, and then I came to have my appraisal. And bear in mind, I'd been offered to have 6 months off full pay, didn't take it. Said no, I want to be in work. I'd done plus 126 on my target. So they talked to me about a promotion, and I was working basically my arse off thinking, right, I'm going to get this promotion, then I'll get, you know, some money. And it wasn't even a lot of money. And then went to a networking event one night. This is like no word of a lie. And the person that I was working with at the time said, oh, by the way, you know, the opportunity we've been talking to you about, we decided what we're going to do is not do that role, and we could just bring somebody new into the business. And I'm stood there with a glass of red wine in my hand, and I said, and because I'd got well, so to put this into context, I never would have stuck up for myself before, but I'd gone through so much, and I thought, hang on a minute, like, you're telling me this at a networking event while we're having a drink. It's just so unprofessional. And normally I would have just gone, all right, okay. And just something in me snapped, and I just said, okay, so this is a conversation we're having at a networking event, is it? I said, I think it's really unprofessional. And I remember going home and saying to my family, I'm going to create a 3-month exit strategy. I don't know what I'm going to do, but because I wasn't on a good salary, I was like, well, I could do a bit of this and a bit of that. And then weirdly, like obviously you and me have talked about like fate and stuff like that. Literally, the next day, I got 2 phone calls from 2 people that had some freelance opportunities, and this had never happened before. So within 2 days, I'd handed in my notice. I've been there 4 years. My first job 9 years, that year job 4. So I'm like a really loyal employee. And so I went with like no job to go to. So I freelanced for a year and kind of got a bit of a taste of it. And then I sort of thought, right, so I'm either going to go back into a corporate job in events, and it is long hours, and you know, anyone that works in events will tell you that, or I can have a go at setting up. And that's kind of how it started, really.
Amazing. So you move into make events. Where did like the momentum start with it? You know, what were the problems you found early on? You've been freelance, and now you've kind of packaged that freelance into a business. What were you doing well, and what were your kind of initial struggles?
Oh, okay. So, well, what had happened was where I was freelancing, I had a couple of clients that I'd sourced myself, and the girl that I was freelancing with, you know, sort of said, you can take them with you. And I said, well, I want to have it all above board. I wouldn't want the clients to think that I'm, you know, running behind your back to take them. I said, so if you're happy to just send them an email, CC me and say, you know, happy for Holly to work with you, then I'm comfortable with that. So it just happened that the first 2 clients were Late Rooms and McCann. So straight away, I had 2 known brands on my book. So I could, you know, straight away go to people and say that. So that was kind of how I started off.
How did that make you feel? Like 2 big brands straight away? It's kind of, most businesses are like, oh, we'll start, you know, slow move up. And all of a sudden you've got, you know, you've got these big brands coming to you, you know, obviously that's fantastic, and you feel great. You know, was the pressure on?
Yeah. So I felt very humble because I had been through a bit of a tough time, really. That year I've been on my own, you know, there'd been ups and downs and things like that. So I wasn't particularly in a good place, but at the end of the day, like that's sometimes when you do make your most best decisions. But I've always thought big. So, you know, like I straight away, you know, I had a proper email, a proper website, you know, there was no Gmail or anything like that. And I phoned, even though I'd worked in events for like, you know, over 10 years at that point, I didn't have any photos that were my photos because I'd done it for everybody else. So I just phoned all like suppliers I would use and said, look, if you let me have photos of your events and put them on my website and my social media, I promise you that I will use you for future events. And so that's what I do. And I still work with those suppliers today. I've never forgot that. And the 2 clients that came with me are still with me today. And I will always go on their events where I can, because I feel like I owe them quite a lot. And it's just been, I suppose, do you know what? And it's funny what you just said about like suddenly feeling like comfortable in yourself. So I think when I was at school, I was like a proper in-betweener. So I wasn't really cool, but I wasn't a geek. I was properly like in the middle.
For you youngsters listening, go and watch The In-Betweeners. It's eye-opening.
Yeah. So so I was never really cool or anything like that, and like just real sort of insecurity issues. Probably the first couple of years, like, and I'd see, they'd never want to do an event with me and things like that. So that kind of. But you have to like fake it, don't you? You can't let anybody
fake it till you make it. That's kind of the mantra, right?
Yeah, and so I think there was all of that, just feeling like, am I good enough? How am I going to do it? And it's really weird. Like I don't know if it was getting to the 5-year mark or whatever it is. And I think if you've seen any of my social media, I'm all about like work hard, be nice, and being friends with my team. And I had so many people saying, you can't trust people and don't get too close to them and they'll leave and like, and then just now I'm at the place and I'm like, do you know what? Like, I am a nice person and I can still be good at business and be a nice person. I might not address every situation I should in the way I should, because, I don't find that kind of thing comfortable.
100%. I think there's a nice, very, very fine balance to be struck in business. And I'm finding it, with the gym, and, it's a new startup and we're about 7 months in, I read a cool book called Radical Candor.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's basically talking about team and building a culture, being a nice person, but being a good boss. And one of the stories that came out from that book really kind of resonated with me, and I've experienced it myself, is they had a particular employee in one of their businesses, and they were a super nice person. They were overly nice and lovely to everybody, but the quality of their work wasn't up to standard, and they kept falling short of those deadlines and falling short of the quality. And whenever it came round to speaking to that person, they wouldn't do it. As a boss,
shied away from it.
The author wouldn't approach that subject for fear of making them feel bad. And it got to a point where they had to sack that employee. So they had the conversation, and it was like, we're going to have to get rid of you. And the person sat there going, well, why? Because I've never been told that my work's not good enough. And the boss felt horrendous and was like, well, I should have just had that direct conversation. So for me, it's that really fine line between understanding and having that mutual respect between employee and employer. And on both sides, I believe it's being able to be direct and to the point, but understanding that there's an underlying gratitude, there's an underlying respect, and generally just not being a dick. And that really resonated with me working here, with previous posts. I know I've been guilty of that, and going, well, I'll save their feelings because it's less ball ache for me, and then you end up having to actually action it at some point. So, I guess with you, that dynamic has been an experience for you, and I know you're now building your team. I think you've got your first management team in now. Is that correct? How are you finding that?
Yeah, really good, actually. They've said to me, I actually don't know how you've done this on your own for 5 years. So it's amazing for me because, I was doing a lot of things, but not all well. And the problem is I like everything. You probably do at the gym. Like, I love running the business. I love events. I love the whole spectrum, but I can't do everything. So it's just fantastic having, the 3 of us been able to support each other, bounce ideas off. And it's really, really good. Everyone thought I wouldn't be able to delegate, but I'm doing fine.
I was going to say, because that's one of the things. It's kind of micromanagement. It's your baby. It's stressful. How do you find the stress? Because for me in the business, and people say to me, oh, you must be ridiculously stressed. And I'm like, yeah, I am. But there's a different stress. And until people are in that environment, and you can probably agree with me, is the stress is mine.
Yes. Yeah.
I own it.
Yeah.
And I can action it.
Yeah.
Over asking for permission.
Yeah.
And someone saying no, or someone imposing something that doesn't fit within my belief system. I'm a big believer in getting feedback and not asking for permission. That's why I wanted to start my own business, and I'm sure that's something that you'd probably agree with.
100%.
So the kind of work dynamic and the business dynamic is, something I'm learning. Obviously, you've been doing it a lot longer. What are your main stresses as a boss?
Yeah, I know it's clients. So for me, not the clients stressing me out. If any clients are listening, it's not that I will.
She's happy with you all, honestly.
Yeah. No, do you know what it is? If I feel there's a few things. If I feel like if a client is chasing us, that makes my skin crawl. So we used to have this thing at work. The team hated it. It was called the ambulance board. And I said, if a client is chasing you, that should feel like an ambulance is driving, behind you in the road, because it just, we should be. For me, I've got a saying that I say to them is, while you're waiting for 5 suppliers to come back to you, your client's only waiting for you. That's the biggest thing on their day. So that's a massive thing that I push to the team. And even if you haven't got feedback for them, give them feedback. So even if there's nothing to do on an event for a couple of weeks, check in with them. So clients chasing us stresses me out, and a client thinking that I don't care anymore. So I think this is a great thing about having the management team, actually, in going back to that question. I haven't been able to give as much time to the clients, the current clients we've got, that I want to, but if someone could see my diary, they would understand why. But that's not, your client's
the
not
client doesn't understand
exactly.
the delegation of your time and your emotion.
Yeah,
they just know that I need a meeting for this, or whatever that may be, and they don't get the underlying context again and go, well, actually, I'm doing this, and this, and again, that's what I'm finding at the moment. And obviously, you've got your management team now who you can kind of delegate that to. Some people will have things like to-do lists and various ways of doing things. I hate to-do lists. I write them and then I just forget them.
What do you do then to remember everything?
Well, I now have Viv at the gym, so she kind of sorts out all of my.
Oh, you lovely lady.
She's like my lovely lady. She's like my half PA. So she knocks on my door and goes, look, you need to do this, and kind of keeps me in check, which is wonderful. She's kind of my gym mum, I guess.
Yeah.
But everyone has their own way. But I think outsourcing and delegating is probably something that people need to understand, that the investment financially will only return and should return more in the future. And I'm guessing that's probably a motivation for you putting that management team in place.
Yeah, I mean, I got a PA really early on, actually. And so I mentioned Late Rooms before. My client from Late Rooms, Mel Sheehy, was co-founder with Amanda Hargreaves of the Manchester PA Network. And I got involved in that very early on, and it made me understand the value of having a PA. And so I got a PA quite early on into the business, which you probably could look at a business our size at the time and think, who the hell does she think she is, getting herself a PA? But it's so valuable to the business. So if you've got help, and it might even be, to do personal things sometimes as well, because, sometimes I'll look at Sunday afternoon and think, right, I could spend the afternoon doing X, Y, Z, or I could spend the afternoon working on this project, and that's going to add massive value to the business.
Yeah.
So
I think if we look at priorities and if we're looking at health, and we'll connect kind of the food and the drink stuff shortly, but if we're looking at kind of the paradigm for what health is, and a big part of that is the social element of being an individual. Let's take business out of it. Is being Holly Moore. Yes, you work hard, but there's that social element and social interaction, and it's very easy to lose that and kind of go, well, I feel like I should do this because this deadline's in place and this person needs this and that, and I can't, I have to take control of this. And all of a sudden things like training and things like food and things like your social life start dropping down the hierarchy. And then when they do rear their head, it's, I'm going to go out and get absolutely smashed because I feel like I deserve it. Or I'll go and eat everything because I haven't. So it's that kind of deprivation and then totally. Gluttony kind of mantra. So for you in its kind of current state, let's kind of start of the year really. How do you keep health at kind of a top priority for you?
Do you mean from this year or do you mean generally?
Yeah, well, I mean generally day to day, but I know we said about yesterday was kind of your first drinks for quite some time, so it's been about 6 months now. So the last 6 months, let's look at the trigger for taking the alcohol away. What were your motivations for doing that? Because events is kind of social. I get with clients who have businesses, it's business lunches and dinners and well, I have to drink because it's disrespectful if I don't.
Yes.
And all these self-imposed reasons, peer pressure,
Yeah.
you know, someone's going to tell me that I have to drink. And I really don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
What was your trigger?
So with events, you could I could go out every single, probably morning and night of the week to the best places in Manchester, Cheshire, the UK, and be wined and dined. So that's fact. I could do that, you know, whenever, because people want us to see their venues and etc.
100%.
And I am a massive foodie. Like, I love my food. I love, you know, drink from a food and beverage point of view, as opposed to...
What's your go-to? What's your go-to food? If you could go with any.
Oh, God.
Put you on the spot here.
I mean...
I'm a big social eater, so sushi and tapas and things like that are great for me.
Yeah. Oh, yes, probably. Oh, God, I love everything. So I love everything. The only thing I'm probably not really keen on is like Chinese. I like Chinese. I like Asian fusion.
No restaurant is safe.
Oh, no, I went to a really nice Italian last night.
Yes.
My favourite, I really like veggie stuff at the moment, actually.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because we've done with the previous episode, we were talking about plant-based eating and how that's kind of not becoming it's not a trend anymore.
Yeah.
It's really kind of gaining some traction and momentum. So you kind of a new passion, is that something you've read or
I just love vegetables. I absolutely love vegetables. So I always order sides and stuff. Do you know what's putting me off? I wouldn't like necessarily pin myself down and say I'm going vegetarian, but what's your views on then protein and gains and all of... So I suppose that worries me, that if I cut out, you know, salmon or chicken out of my lunch or my dinner, what about building muscle?
Well, first you need to listen to episode 2. Because you're going to get a lot about the kind of plant-based and working around that. We were talking a lot about transition.
Yeah.
And what tends to happen with people who decide, for whatever reason, it might be moral reason, you know, animal welfare and all that, or it might just be I've heard this and I've done this, is understanding it's not a light switch. It's not something you can just go on a Tuesday, I'm going to be a meat eater. On a Wednesday onwards, I'm going to be a plant-based eater. It requires a kind of transitional phase, and going within that phase is education, self-education, or seeking out someone with credibility who can point you in the right direction and give you the context for you. Because what's happening is mainstream media are kind of going, this is good for you, this is bad for you, this is healthy, this is unhealthy. But they are taking this from a pure science-based, physiological standpoint of what health means, or definition of health, and it doesn't have the underlying context. So yes, you with plant-based eating, you're essentially moving all your animal protein, which leaves a big gap in terms of physiological function and benefit. So being able to transition, understanding your work, understanding your home environment, understanding your activity, your gym, your training, and then having your outcome around it. So whether it's fat loss maintenance or muscle building, whatever it may be, and being educated on the requirements. And then it's a little bit of trial and error. So unless you're going to get bloods done and going to really drill into the kind of clinical route, education is key. And going, okay, I want to make this decision, but it's going to take me a little time. Because you might find a happy medium. You might go, okay, well, I'm going to be pescatarian because I enjoy kind of eating fish and doing that. I think people struggle when they watch What the Health and they read the China study and then that's it. Someone wrote that, it's very comprehensive, I'm going to be plant-based, and they have no idea how to do it. They just believe it's healthier, and they don't understand that there is, you know, cost and value for any kind of change. So it's interesting that you are kind of moving towards that, or apportioning some of your life towards it.
I really like do you know, like when you go to sort of like Delicious Yellow, let's say, when they do like nourish bowls, and it's kind of like different hummus and roasted vegetables and nuts and seeds, and I think, oh my God, that I would like really enjoy that. But then I just think to myself, oh, but then I'm not getting like my 100 and whatever grams of protein a day. But I do really like whey, and I don't have any problems with whey. I know a lot of people do. So I love making smoothie bowls and stuff like that. So I'll get protein that way anyway. But I was just interested in what you thought.
So essentially, you're finding a nice happy medium. All you're doing is you know. I'll always use this. You're kind of moving into an advanced lifestyle practitioner. You know, by the sounds of things, and really understanding what works for you. You know, whether it kind of ties in with conventional wisdom or not, it works for you, and you feel great. So, back to the alcohol.
We've digressed, haven't
That's
we?
fine. Digressing is great. So back to the alcohol.
So, last year, that's what I was saying. I can basically eat and drink whenever I want.
Great.
So a typical week would be, maybe I'd go to an awards dinner on a Wednesday. I would drive, but I'd probably have a Prosecco, maybe half a red wine, something like that. Then it might be Thursday, might be like I don't know, I'm trying to get like a networking event that's a bit snazzy. So I might go, oh, you know what, I'll get a taxi. So that'd be a good few drinks. Friday, finish work, Prosecco, Deliveroo. Nice. And then Saturday would probably be like, go out. And I am very all or nothing. So I don't often have like an off button. So when I'm out kind of thing. And then it would, so it could be like 2 a.m. And again, if I haven't got events, bear this in mind. And then a Sunday might be a few red wines. But what the trigger was, I started noticing I was getting, and I really don't want to sound like an alcoholic, because I definitely wasn't, but I was kind of noticing I was getting smashed really at least once, twice a week. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, I don't get like the beer fear, but I would get, why do I do it to myself? I'm an idiot, like berating myself all day, getting annoyed with myself, but then still going out for Sunday lunch and having a red wine.
It's kind of like a cycle.
100%. Yeah. And then also what I started to notice is actually, I'm not even fancying that G&T or that, it's just because I'm in a bar and I'm having a drink. And then it got to December this year. So I do a lot of like client entertaining. So November, December had been nuts with award ceremonies, taking clients out for dinner. And I actually got to December and I had a big family Christmas. And I thought, I'm actually like, I'm done, but I've got to carry on drinking for the whole of, Christmas. And I could feel I'd put on weight, and I just didn't feel good mentally or physically. And I've done dry January, I think once or twice before, but I would always cut it off on the 31st of January because that's my birthday. And then it'd be like, oh, well, it's this and it's that. So I just thought, if I do dry, so I was realising that this wasn't good. And it was like habit forming rather than, I want to drink because I like the taste or anything like that. And I also thought my massive complaint for the whole of the business so far is, oh, I've not got enough time. I'm too busy. I've not got enough time. And then I was looking at myself going, I've not got enough time, but I'm sat in bed till 2 o'clock on a Sunday. I've not got enough time, but I'm cancelling a gym session in the morning and going at another time of the day, which actually isn't that productive. And I'm telling myself all these stories. And like, just suddenly towards the end of the year, I'm like, this is rubbish, what you're telling yourself. And also I wasn't getting results in the gym that I wanted. And my PT was like, can you not just do like a couple of months? And I was like, I can't. I have to take clients out. And it just all built up. And I think I felt so rubbish going into Christmas. Got absolutely like smashed on New Year's Eve. Felt awful New Year's Day. Went out for a family like lunch. It was like the only way through it's to have another drink. And then I just said to myself, I'm going to do 66 days alcohol free. So when I like started it, I thought, right, if I'm outward about it, so I decided to raise some money for the Christie. So I put it out kind of on social media that I was raising money for the Christie. So that meant I had to stick to it, because what I thought was, if I do the dry January and then it's my birthday and then I'll just go back. So I thought, if I can do the 66 days and my birthday that I've drunk on forever and a day, get through that. I had a friend's 40th, would have been in that time. And the 66 days came from, have you read the book The Power of Habit by Charles? I can't remember his surname.
No, I haven't.
But he says it takes 66 days to form a habit. So that's where the 66 days came from initially. So that was the catalyst, I guess. I just wasn't liking myself.
and with, I think with any change, I find it with clients, we have an innate talent to justify reasons for doing things. If we want to do something, consciously or otherwise, we will give ourselves the best reason, and no one can argue with us or tell us or debate with us otherwise. And generally, for me, it's trying to strip that away and going, where's the one or two? What's the one or two things? And generally, it's a fear of failure. Generally, it's I feel inadequate. Generally, it's something like that.
Yeah.
That we then go, we don't have time. Then we go, we have our comfort and escape, and that's cool. We all still have those, but it could be alcohol, it could be bad food, it could be not going to the gym. Yeah. And it's very easy because everyone has that. So it's like, oh, cool, I feel you. I'm using the same bullshit reasons why I'm not doing what I should be doing. So it's really kind of, I think the tough bit is that's out the comfort zone of going, okay, this is really the reason why
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I
Yeah.
should be doing, or going in the direction I feel I
Yeah.
should be going in. And being strong enough and consistent enough to do that. And I think support networks are great. How did the staff, how did clients, because they must have noticed, oh, well, Holly's not drinking anymore. Like, what was the initial kind of feeling or comments or, talk from the staff and clients?
Well, I think I've just realised I'm a bit of a ringleader because, like, the girls at work actually, from what I see now, don't drink that much. And I probably was the person when we'd finish an event at 4 a.m. and be like, right, we're all having Prosecco to celebrate. They would be like, oh God, just want to go to bed. And Holly's like cracking open the Prosecco. So I feel like actually they're not that big of drinkers anyway. And anyway, that age group, because I've got a lot of girls in their 20s that work for me, they're not big drinkers anyway. It's not the same culture. Like I say, that culture I was brought up on was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just get off your face on alcohol.
Live for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So they've all been brilliant. Like they're probably glad. And clients. So another part of what I decided to do was stop saying yes to things I didn't want to do. Now I believe in life and business. There's just stuff you've got to do, and that's fine. But I stopped saying yes to kind of events that I was invited to that I would think, oh, I'll go because I can have a drink. And it'll be fine because I can have a drink. And I thought, why am I doing stuff that I'm only going to enjoy if I have a drink? Like that. So that was part of this. So do you know what? People have been fine. It's the weirdest thing. I've suggested to people now, oh, do you want to go for coffee or brunch? Like, I love brunch. That's actually something
best
I
meal
love.
of the week. That
I love brunch.
Yeah.
So I've kind of suggested stuff like that. And probably my meetings with clients are more productive now because they've got more of a purpose than, because when you do go out drinking with a client, it's probably not the right time to bring up, oh, can we talk about your strategy for the next, do you know what I mean? So it's been like really well received. If anything, I've had like real admiration of people. Like, I can't believe you've done it. I can't believe you've gone this long. So.
Yeah, I find it kind of goes in the same way for people, is they get that kind of initial motivation to make a decision.
Yeah.
Let's use alcohol as the example, and then you go out and it's like, oh, go on, you were always the life of the party. Don't be so boring.
Yeah.
Here we go, have one or two, and they press you so hard, and you don't want to. You generally like, I don't want to drink, and then they push you, and you go, okay. And then what they do, then your mates turn around, start talking to other people. They forget that they've even, teased you about the whole thing. And here you are, you've drunk your drink and gone, I've now relinquished that control. But if you stick with it, what happens is you start seeing changes, right? And that might not necessarily just be physical changes, but more confidence, more clarity, more energy, more vitality, all of that kind of stuff. You hold yourself in a different way. And all of a sudden these people are like, oh my God, Holly, like, you're a completely different person. And how did you do it? It's always the question. You go, well, remember 4 weeks ago when you were like trying to get me to drink and live the way I didn't want to? Well, I said no, didn't I? Like, oh yeah, forgot. And then all of a sudden they start going, well, I want to be like that. Or you get people just drop off because they get really bitter, and they don't necessarily see it as a good thing because you're kind of developing and growing and moving on, and they don't want to do that. But the fact that your staff, would you say you were the healthiest events company in the UK?
We absolutely are.
There we go.
My team have got, it's so funny actually from seeing them when they first started. They were like so healthy now. We give a gym membership as part of like the employee benefits. And they've actually said to me, like, I do motivate them because I think they see where I get my energy from. Like they're motivated by that. I think people have just, and especially people that have known me a long time. And so I've got one group of friends, like there's the 6 of us, and we go on holiday together every year and have weekends away. And in the first 66 days, we had Tony, my friend's 40th, and we always go to a cottage, and literally we get to the cottage, the fridge is like literally full of booze.
I can only imagine.
You can imagine. And so as soon as we get there, it's like Prosecco, blah, blah, blah. So they were like, I can't believe you're coming on Tony's 40th. We'll donate to your charity fund to make you drink. And I was like, no, I'm doing it. Anyway, we had such a good weekend. And they were like, oh my God, you've actually got a really good personality without alcohol. I know. So then we've just been to Spain. So this weekend that we always go to Spain for is always 4 days. And I will be in the midst of it all, of drinking. And we just turned it on its head, the last time that we went, and everyone said it was like the best one we've had in like 9 years. So it's funny, I think people are worried at first because they know you as you and a party girl and all of this, so then they may be worried that they're going to lose a little bit of that if you're kind of making big changes. And I think they've realized, if anything, they've got more out of me, definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening, alcohol is not the way necessarily.
And also, just to say as well, if you are thinking about it, I do think I ended up raising like £1,700 for the Christie, because people probably just couldn't believe I was going to do it. And so I think if you can put something out there, it makes you accountable. Like, I've got an accountable personality where I did, which might even come to a bit of Instagram stories last week on keeping healthy well on site for events. And the reason I did that was to share content, but also from a really selfish point of view, I feel like if I say something in the public arena, like I have to stick to it. So if somebody wanted the motivation to start an alcohol free, like they could do maybe a chosen charity, and then they'd
100%.
Actually feel good about it.
I actually have a client at the moment who's doing that with
really?
bad food.
Oh, really?
So every time he has something, let's say a slice of cake, for example, he'll give 50 quid to his chosen charity.
That's amazing.
So he's self-imposed it on himself.
Yeah.
So it's not so much raising money; it's more his thing, and it's each to their own. But it's working very well. Yeah. So he's obviously not very charitable because he doesn't want to give any money. So we've looked at kind of the business and being healthy in business. Yeah. Let's talk training, because female training, there's still a lot of not even confusion, but a lot of beliefs from I think general population that women shouldn't necessarily lift weights or lift heavy weights. What's your training looking like at the moment? What are you doing?
So I do a HIIT class on a Monday morning, just because it just like wakes me up for the week ahead. That might have things like animal flow in and things like that, and a lot of body weight. And then I might, depends on the week, but I might do a PT Monday evening, which would just be weight-based. I don't often train twice a day, but if I've got the luxury where I've got an evening off, I do quite like to do that. And then within the week, depending on what's going on, I'll do 2 PT sessions, and they'll probably be like legs and core, sometimes upper and core, again, depending on what classes I've done. So I like to do 2 PT and 3 classes. And the classes that I do at my gym are functional. So, they might be squats with a bar, kettlebells, finishers, AMRAP, all things like that. So really good mix. And then what I'll try and do, so for example, today, because my car was at the restaurant where we went last night, I just ran for my car this morning. And I might do... If I've got the time, I might train every day, but it might not be hardcore on the 7th day.
It's definitely a priority for you.
Oh my God,
it's always at the forefront of, if I do have time, that's what I'm filling it with.
I never do less than 5 a week.
Fantastic. Yeah. And you run a business. Yes. So anyone who's out there who says they don't have time, it's an allocation of priority. Yeah. It's not, time is a consideration. Yeah. Sure, we're all stretched for time, as we go on, but it's not an excuse for not doing something you say you want to do. Yeah. So whether it's a half an hour HIIT session, I know you do some of Joe Wicks's stuff at home. Yeah. And you've got the PT as well. So in terms of lifting weights, how does it make you feel?
Well, I've got a couple of like niggly injuries. So I have had to kind of like check myself that, I can't lift as heavy as everybody in the gym. So I do a lot of straight leg deadlifts. I've got a bit of a funny knee. So probably, what would I weigh? I'm probably on about 54 kilos, let's say. So I can probably lift on a good day, like 70 on a deadlift. Wow. But squats, I can't. So really the heaviest I'll go on a squat on a bar is 25 because of my knee. That really annoys me because I'd love to at least be able to squat my body weight. But it's, do I want to end up injured and not being able to train?
It's understanding your outcome to your training and going, okay, well, it's part of a whole. Yeah. And I think a lot of people bring ego into the equation and they bring load into the equation. Yeah. I want to squat this. I want to press this. I want to do this. And they don't understand that actually there's a cost to doing that. And it's great and it's cool if you can train and you've got the fundamentals of how to train. Awesome. Yeah. And that's something I remove the ego and then I put bits of it back in depending on what lifts they're very good at. And obviously, working around structural limitations. And we're great. We've got the guys at Altius Healthcare in-house who do a lot of the performance rehab for Red Bull and Team GB and some of the rugby guys, and that's great for us, because we can take those structural deficiencies and go, okay, not only are we getting people in great physical shape, but we're working with, because I think a lot of PTs will go, oh, you've got this niggle in, let's say, lower back. Oh, we'll work around it. Well, what are you working around? Where's the upward chain? Where's the downward chain? And for us, what we're trying to do with Altius is really bridge the gap between health professionals and fitness professionals and provide a more kind of holistic service. But females should always be in the gym. They should always be lifting weights. You're kind of a testament to that for someone who didn't used to train and now kind of sees it as very much a priority and a driver in your daily lifestyle. How does that transition to your business? Training, how does that contribute away from the physical stuff? How does that contribute to the growth of your business?
So I think, like you were saying, in the first few years, my training did trail off a bit. And then I just realised that I wasn't at my best. So I think I'm a big believer in like creating your own strategies to be at your best. So what I realised was the way that I got into PT actually originally wasn't because, oh my God, I want to like shape this or lift this. It was like, right, I'm slacking off the gym because I'll always put work first. So if I have 2 PT a week, that will make me go to the gym. And that was my like initial thing for doing it. And then obviously you learn off a PT and it becomes quite interesting and whatever. So whereas a lot of business owners might start work, I know you start work at like 6.
Before 5. Jesus, I think.
Yeah. I am not normally in the office before 8:30 because I prioritise my training at like 6, 7 in the morning. And you might think, oh, but you could be in work for 7 and get a couple more hours work done. But for me, I would rather get that done and I'll work through into the evening if I need to.
Small wins in the day, isn't it? You kind of get up and do what makes you feel good. Some people get up and write first thing in the morning. And then I think it was Craig Ballantyne said he wakes up, he writes in the morning, and then he rewards himself with his meditation and things like that, and then kind of gets on with his day. And I think routines are really, really important. You see a lot about being habitual with what you do before you start work and how that kind of sets you up. So, obviously health and exercise is very much at the forefront of that for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like if I've got a big presentation or, I'm doing an industry talk on Wednesday, I know I will be at my best if I've got something in. It might be a run, it might be, 20 minutes with Joe Wicks if I'm traveling or whatever, but I feel it just gives me like loads more energy. That's what I use it for, and then use that for work. And it is a release. I like the gym's my happy place.
Great.
So.
And I'm a big advocate for that. I've done my own journey over the last kind of 15 years since getting into the industry, and it really is a character building process. What you learn about yourself over and beyond just the lifting dumbbells and cables and machines. It's understanding you. And I think it's a big contributing factor to finding, sounding holistic, is finding yourself.
Definitely.
And being able to put yourself in a position where you can actually be yourself at that particular moment and give yourself the opportunity to kind of evolve as a person and grow.
What do you, so I know you're training for your ultra, aren't you?
Yes, I'm running. I haven't really said anything, but I'm running 50 miles up and down hills in October. For Parkinson's UK, so a great cause, one that's very close to home. My father is a Parkinson's sufferer. So for me, I'm going to suffer for a day. I've never run a marathon. 3 months away. It's kind of.
Oh. So if you weren't training for that, what would be your ideal training week? If you could do what you loved for a week training. I'm getting questioning. I'm getting questioning now. This is crazy. I told you I'd warm up.
For me, I came from an athletic background. I played sport my whole life. Being athletic and my marker for fitness was very much getting through a 90-minute football match or being able to perform at my best and adding value through my skill. There's no better feeling than that. And for me, when I moved away from that, I retired when I was 28. And I went kind of spent the last 5 years training purely for aesthetic and understanding the nuance on changing body composition with some great guys. And that was awesome. And, I did some photo shoots and that was cool. And I was lean and I looked great. And I'm at that stage now where I want some athletic back. I'm 33. I could probably still play football if I got myself into that kind of condition
Yeah.
again. And I'm kind of, for me, the urge to kind of combine the two is
Yeah.
there. So for me, it's not so much about pure aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's about being robust and durable. I
Yeah.
think joint health is really, really important. Obviously, gearing up for this ultra marathon, it's not a flat ultra marathon. There's 4,000 meters of elevation, and I'm trying to kind of scare myself into making sure I'm as robust as possible.
Yeah.
I think that elevation is going up and down the Burj Khalifa 5 times,
Yeah.
and then running the rest of the race. So it's things like that, and then watching the London Marathon and seeing all these seasoned marathon runners absolutely destroyed as they're going over the line. It's like I'd have to touch the finish, turn around, and go back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really cool. It's a completely different discipline. I've got some great guys around me who are helping me out. And yeah, it's just it's trying to find that kind of balance and not losing too much muscle tissue, running loads and loads and loads of miles. But it's character building again, and for me, it's always that undertone of doing it for dad, and hopefully raising some money. So I'll put the link up. Plugs, shameless. I'll put the link up to my Just Giving page, and hopefully we can raise some money and help some people out. So that's a little bit about my training. So we haven't mentioned how we met.
No.
It's one of these kind of, whether you believe in fate or not, but Tony Robbins has a lot to do with us meeting.
Yeah.
So tell the story.
So I think you have as well. So I've listened to Tony Robbins for years and years and years. Had it in my diary. So he does. So for those of you that don't know Tony Robbins, he's an American motivational coach.
Juggernaut.
Yeah, amazing. And people have got really I suppose strong opinions, haven't they, either way of him. And then he did this film on Netflix last year, You Are Not My Guru, which has opened it up to a lot more people. So I love him. And it is a bit of a running joke. Actually, even for my 40th, the girls at work did my 40th, and they did a Tony Robbins motivational wall at my party. That's how much I love him. So I went to Tony Robbins in April, and there's 13,500 people.
Yeah, so this was the Unleash the Power Within event in London. At the XL in London, and lots and lots of people. So where did we meet?
Yeah, so the weird thing about Tony Robbins, which we said after, it's a bit like going to a club in that you kind of wander around and will talk to anyone. So I was just one morning, walking to go and get a Starbucks, and normally, you wouldn't just speak to people you don't know. I think I tried to get in, didn't I? Because it wasn't open. And then you were waiting with
We were loitering. We were loitering outside Starbucks.
Waiting for the caffeine fix.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you don't get much sleep at Tony Robbins, do you, on this event? And then you just sort of because of the vibe of how it is there, you do kind of randomly ask people, what's your name and where do you come from? And then you said you were from Altrincham, and I was like, no way, I'm from Wilmslow. What do you do? I've got a gym in Manchester. And then I said, I've got an events company. And then what happened then?
I actually follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, that was it.
And I was just like, that's mental, because you put up that you were going and you were vigorously pulling on the door at Starbucks, give me my caffeine, and we were there having already done that, and we're just kind of waiting to be the sad first ones in for caffeine.
Yeah.
And we got chatting and
and then the weird thing was that your gym is associated or works alongside the Kettlebell Kitchen, which for those of you that don't know the Kettlebell Kitchen, where have you been?
If you live in Manchester and you don't know Kettlebell Kitchen, are you really from Manchester?
Yeah. And I'm a little bit obsessed with Kettlebell Kitchen because Kylie Jones, who's the founder of that, is a female, entrepreneur. And so for me, to find like-minded people is amazing. So then we discovered that connection. And then we ended up sitting together all day.
Sure.
So it was, it's weird. Out of 13,500 people end up
regaling our business and life within an hour of meeting each other. It's kind of crazy. So kind of on that subject of mentors.
Yes.
Are you a believer in kind of as a businesswoman with a growing business and someone who likes to be healthy? Mindset and mindfulness is obviously, again, something that is becoming very popular.
Yeah.
And obviously that has infinite meanings for people.
Yeah.
Do you hold kind of mindfulness and mindset as a priority, as something that's important in kind of your health paradigm? And if you do you have any mentors or any kind of go-tos for you?
Yeah. So I've got like a little saying, which is like train the brain or remain the same. And I think in sort of pre-mentors, if you like, I think having been through a mental health problem and seeing, so my recovery was CBT and mindfulness intense. And so I think I got first hand of what you can do. Like, you can literally change the chemistry of your brain. So I'm massively passionate on that side of things. But having said that, it has to come from within you, because I saw so many people that I knew weren't going to get well because they weren't ready to, or didn't want to, or didn't put the work in. You've got to do the work. So that kind of gave me a starting position. So then when I went to be freelance for a year, I kind of thought, I've not got a boss anymore. And I think I just said to you before, like, I'm someone that needs to be held accountable. I'm not good at holding myself accountable. So I have to kind of put it out there to stick to things. So I got a mentor, Simon Norrie, who I got initially, and he actually helped me decide to set up the business. So when I was kind of wondering, what do I do? Do I go back to corporate world? Do I set up a business? He really helped me with this exercise called the well-formed outcome, and did loads of work and kind of got me to that point to make that decision. So I stayed with him the first few years of the business, and then felt like I kind of had got a great amount of knowledge from him. And then kind of went off on my own a little bit, and through networking met loads of kind of business owners, like CEOs, MDs, that were happy to have a coffee and offer me, advice. But when you get, I do think when you're getting it for free, it's hard to put any expectations on people. So again, I'm a massive believer in, if you want to get good at something, pay an expert to help you. So I always tell the story that when I got Simon as my first mentor, that year I was freelancing, I earned 18 grand and he was £80 an hour. But I saw that, I don't have a university education. So I saw that as a valid investment in myself. And 100% it was, because I wouldn't have set up Make Events.
And how did you go about finding him as a mentor?
Well, I was freelancing actually at a bar doing some of their marketing and events in Knutsford, and he was a customer, and just got chatting to him, and still friends with him and his wife now. Amazing. And which is fantastic.
And what makes a good mentor for you?
Well, weirdly enough, I've been with Matt Incredible Thinking for like 18 months now, and spoke to a few people. So for me, it's chemistry. Like, when I first met Matt, he said straight away, I can tell you're going to be, how did he put it? I can see I'm going to have to use sense of humour with you. And I do actually need to be bossed about. So he will like put me in my place, and when I'm making excuses about things, he'll be like, do you know what I mean? That's what I respond to.
Chemistry. It's a relationship, and for me, that's the definition of a mentor. Is it's a multi-level and a multifaceted relationship. I think if you're going to invest, and I completely agree, you invest time, you invest emotion. I'm insanely fortunate to have Jamie Allays, who is my business partner within the gym. He was a client of mine, and very quickly we shared a lot of values on multiple levels. We get on very well. He's a very, very dear friend of mine, and we kind of bounce off each other. So I think being a mentor is sometimes a mutual relationship. Even though like Jamie is incredibly successful on multiple fronts with multiple businesses, he learns from me and I learn from him, and we have different strengths and different facets that actually all work in the same environment. And Jamie's brought a lot of qualities out in me that were there. They were always there, but they were suppressed for various reasons. So very quickly, it's an environment where you can feel like you are yourself, which is, again, the overriding factor for any growth of business or health or anything like that. You have to be authentic. And that's helped me beyond measure. And to have someone like Jamie, in-house, let alone paying for, is great. But for me, I'm a massive advocate of that, of going, whether you're paying for someone for one-to-one or you're just getting out there, like, as you said with Tony Robbins, people are kind of on the fence. They're kind of one side of the fence or the other. It's either a cult or it's, you're kind of fully invested. And for me, no one delivers content like he delivers content. And you sit there in a room of 13,500 people. This year was my second time, and I wasn't present for the whole thing. I could pick and choose exercises and things that were really relevant to me. And when you're sat there, the way he delivers it, it's like he's speaking to you, and like you're sat in that auditorium on your own.
Yeah.
You forget that there's 13,500 other people there. So mentorship comes, I think, in many forms, but I think there has to be the kind of that connection element, rather than just going, oh, he's done well, I'll pay him or her to just tell me what to do. I think there's a big difference there.
So with Tony Robbins, like that, I had a few people say to me, so how much was the tickets? And I was like, I think it was like £1,400. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, but you think about that. You know, it's 12 hours a day for 4 days. And when do you ever, as a business owner, or there weren't all just business owners there, were there? But whenever do you get to sit down and for 4 days and think about strategy, improving yourself? And I don't know about you, but how have you been since it?
But it's understanding that in context.
Yeah.
So cost in context. Let's tie it in with the alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say the average Cheshire night out, right? It's 100 plus quid.
Yes.
Yeah? So that's what? 14 weeks, 3 months without alcohol. Right, so not only are you benefiting yourself, then you benefit your business and finances, and which is kind of the broad spectrum of what you go through with Tony Robbins. I think for me, it's a great time of year. It's April. It's a great time to kind of forget the business in a sense, or forget life, and just really drill down into those things that are suppressed and kind of need to come out. And for me, anyone who makes you think is a good mentor, is a good educator, is a good deliverer of seminars, and he does that. Yeah. So people will see the jumping around like a lunatic 73 times a day, which is crazy. But when you go, you understand that it's about changing state, and it's going, okay, well, we actually didn't take a break from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. because he was very clever at changing state and going, okay, well, we're starting to get a lull. We've worked very intensely, and now we need to pick me up. Yeah. And that translates really well into day to day, and going, you don't feel like you have to be on your laptop for 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 hours a day. Yeah. You need those little breaks to stimulate yourself and come back creative. So the nice thing for me as not a business owner, but a trainer working with clients is doing that and going, okay, well, you can be on your computer, the laptop as a business owner, and then you can go, cool. Well, if you're going to take a call and go outside, go and enjoy the sun, which we're obviously enjoying at the moment. Get active, get walking, you can come back to your laptop or back to your computer with a more clear and a more creative mind, which means your quality of work will improve. So it's a lot of parallels with how that works. It's just focused on the individual, and there's a small group of us that go, and we all sit separately. Yeah. We don't all sit together because that kind of defeats the whole object. It's a great networking event. Generally there are a lot of business owners and that there, and it's a fantastic opportunity just to kind of refocus. And we've booked our tickets for next year already. So have I. Amazing.
But obviously we can't sit together because we know each other
anymore.
Now.
So we're not allowed to meet outside Starbucks anymore. So, I mean, it's the kind of changes you've made. Obviously, they have benefited your business. Yeah. Where's Make Events going?
Okay, so we had a massive year last year. We had like 160% growth. We did a brand reposition, so the growth plans over the next 4 years now are to double the turnover, double the amount of staff. But the whole thing with Make Events is, and this is similar to you, you're in a service industry as well, is that if you're going to engage an events agency, and for people to put events into context, it's not parties, it's basically you should have an event strategy to engage with your customers, your colleagues and your stakeholders. And the reason for that is there is nothing that will be a live experience and a real life event that happens together where you can share information and learn information. But it's also about not just that one event. So I think something Tony says in his in at UPW is, book the next thing. So when we do an event for a client, it's not just the 24 hours of that event, it's what's the strategy after that, how are we going to measure what we try to achieve. So,
by the way, we want commission for any ticket sales, Tony, so if you're listening, ticket sales off the back of this, get in touch.
And I think, so for us, I think if you're going to employ a creative events agency, you should get a creative event. That's a given. So that's nothing that I'm doing that's any different to any other events agency out there. If you're training a client, you've got to be really good at your training and give that hour that really good experience. So I think where we have the differences, it's all about this ultimate experience. So if you work with Make Events, it doesn't matter if 1 year, I was telling you about a client that I've worked with this week that do an annual event that was pulled the year previous. I don't treat that client any different year to year, whether they've got a meeting for 10 or a conference for 1,000, because it's all about, this whole like work hard, be nice ethos. We should be giving them the best experience regardless of the budget and what they've got coming up. So we have this, we've got this whole strategy at the moment about the ultimate experience, but it's not just for clients, it's for colleagues, it's for stakeholders, it's for suppliers. And that's kind of where we're going. We've got a big internal culture shift.
Amazing. Sounds awesome. So, little question before we finish. Crazy client requests, because you do some pretty cool, pretty out there events.
Yeah.
What's the kind of, are there any like super crazy requests from clients?
Do you know, I mean, not so much from clients, but obviously we work with quite a lot of celebrities. And I always say at the end of my career, I should write a book on celebrity riders. So for those people that don't know what a rider is, when you've got a celebrity that you're working with, they'll give you a list of everything that they require in their dressing room. And it's all confidential. We have to sign confidentiality, so I can't give any
Don't name names, but come on, crazy riders.
Well,
come on.
Just stuff like there was one act that were literally had been in the X Factor, so they were not famous really at all. And when their rider came through, it was China teacups and real silver teaspoons. And I was like, are you for real? Seriously.
Did they test to see if it was real silver?
Well, yeah. So what you end up finding out is it's actually the managers. So it's not necessarily always the celebrity. So say like a rider might have like, magnums of Grey Goose. It's not for the celebrity. It's for the manager who's also requested the suite, who's going to have the party afterwards. So, but I could probably say the healthiest rider I've ever seen is probably Kylie Minogue and Gary Barlow. Like they are super healthy. So that was quite nice to.
And they both look great in their more mature years.
Oh my God, Kylie Minogue, I have to just tell you this. She's just been 50, hasn't she? I didn't get that party, but she, close up, she is like amazing. I mean, like I only worked with her 2 years ago, so she would have been 48. Her skin, like everything.
She's still neighbours back in the day.
Oh my God, she's amazing. Yeah.
Testament to health.
Yeah, she doesn't drink, really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, look, we could sit and talk here for hours. And we'll definitely do some more stuff as we go. Last question I ask everybody. Any advice you would give to youngsters out there who want to live a healthier life and maybe are looking to start their own business?
Yeah. So on the healthier life side of things, if I knew then what I know now, I would wish I'd started in the gym and training from my teens, because again, being openly admitting, with aesthetics, muscle memory, starting off young, people that I know that like did the gym from like 16, they're so like lean and, they look amazing. So I think, I wish, if you're going to do it, and just, it is about finding strategy. So even if it is that you like dancing and you want to do street dance or something like that, just do what you enjoy. From the health side, I think the teenagers and stuff in this era are much healthier than my day. And starting your own business, I would say, I think goal setting, and that's probably a whole other podcast, but, writing down some goals, however big or small, and trying to start ticking things off, because it's a bit like the gym. When you start seeing results, it starts to motivate you. So if you can have a goal that you tick off.
Got to box tick.
Yes.
100%, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, if people wanted to reach out and ask questions, where can they find you?
So on Twitter, it is I am Holly Moore, and it's HOLLYMOORE. On Instagram, I am Holly Moore Events. And then on all the channels, we've got Make Events as well. Fantastic.
If you would like to reach out to any of us, obviously Holly's told you where you can find them. We're at the Gymworks Group. I'm at matt.j.warner. Hit us all up with questions. We'll be more than happy to answer. To Holly, thank you very much for coming along and spending the time in this lovely sunny day to sit in the studio and talk to us. We look forward to our next episode. 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 Our next episode.